Microphone check 1 2 1 2. How you guys doing? This is DJ Mad Scientist. How you guys doing on this great Friday? I'm here quasi on time. It's 6:01 Pacific Standard Time, so that means I'm getting better and better and better at being on time. At some point in time, I know we're gonna get to the point where I'm gonna have like a ton of people waiting and waiting because they know for sure 100% that I will be here for them. Until that happens, I'm gonna keep going and do what I do. Okay. Now, I have been advised that I need to get into what we're gonna be doing quicker, less small talk, more, for the sake of YouTube, and that way they know exactly what it is that we are doing, and for the sake of you, the audience. Okay. Hey, what's up? This is Mad Scientist on the all new Power 97.5 LA. Today we are just talking music, where we bring you vital information about music production, promotion, and distribution every week, right here where we on the iGlobal Radio app. Download the app from your favorite app store or go to the website, iglobalradio.com. That's iglobalradio.com. Now, for those of you who are new to this weekly stream, um, I'm doing this on YouTube live on Friday nights, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And then the next day, Saturday, they take the audio and they send it out to the radio station Power 975 LA on the iGlobal Radio app. And that is every Saturday from 11 a.m. until 12 p.m. So those of you who are listening to the radio station wondering, why is he referencing Friday? It's Saturday or Sunday in the Philippines. It's because I do it live on my YouTube channel, Mad Scientist, MADD Scientist. I do it live on my YouTube channel. And so if you ever want to see it live, I generally start between 6 and 6:05. But if you ever want to see it live, you can like and subscribe, or actually subscribe to my channel. Put on that little bell notification, ding, and I'll let you know that I'll be going live. And then, you can come see it live on YouTube on a Friday. Okay. Now, generally, as I said in my opening, what I talk about is music marketing. Okay. And music marketing is an umbrella term. So, for those who are new, we're not going to go too deep into a definition, but music marketing is an umbrella term, right? And under the umbrella, um, there are four segments or four parts to music marketing. One being production or product development, but for the sake of music, we call it production. Another one calls we're going to call it price, okay, which we don't really discuss price. And then there's placement, which placement would be in music term distribution, which we really don't go into a lot of distribution. And then there's promotion, okay, four P's of marketing. But for the sake of music, um, we call it production, still price, distribution, and promotion. Now, what I do here on this channel is I discuss production and I discuss promotion. The reason why I don't really discuss price is because pricing in music is not really a factor that we as artists control. Okay. We upload our music to Spotify. Spotify is a separate platform that provides um, its customer base with the access to all kind of music. And we think of it as our fans, but actually when you're on Apple Music, Tidal, Spotify, or any of these DSPs, those people that are on there are their customers. So we provide their customers with entertainment, and then they compensate us for our work. Okay. And so at that point in time, not many of us, some of us, maybe Taylor Swift, maybe Drake, maybe Kendrick, maybe the top people can really negotiate, the terms of what how much they're gonna make per stream. But for the rest of us, regular people, we're not really able to negotiate that. So that's why I don't go into pricing and distribution. I rarely go into it. Rarely, really do I go into it, primarily because it's, you know, the options and everything that goes into distribution is so different, so diverse, so dispersed. And so I may do random videos on it, but primarily what I do here on this channel, I talk about production and I talk about promotion. All right, so let's get into what we're going to talk about today, which is production. We did promotion. I did some promotion videos over the past. If you go back to my channel, I spent about, I want to say, between 6 to 8 weeks on promotion. So if you want to look into past promotion, I would advise you to like, subscribe, and then go back and look at the promotional videos. Go back and look at the marketing videos. I have them under, and I will tell you exactly. I have them under music marketing. Okay, but I want to tell you exactly the label on the channel. Hold on. So that there's no confusion. It's called music marketing, promotion, and production. Okay. So if you go to my channel and you look under the music marketing, promotion, and production, then you can go look at the past discussions that I've had, and I think you'll find them to be very, very helpful. Okay. I want to encourage you to. Here's the thing that I want to say to everyone that watches this channel. Um, I don't do how-to videos. Okay. What I do are videos in which I am giving you what I learn in real time as someone who is actively working in the industry, and I'm on my mission to where I want to go. Ultimately, where I want to go is I want to be a DJ and producer at the level of, let's say, a DJ Snake, um, Dave Guetta, Calvin Harris. Calvin Harris is pretty much my favorite DJ producer. Okay, and so I want to be at that level. Same thing with Little John, right? And so I'm on my mission to get there. And so the benefit of you watching my videos is that you get to watch in real time what it is that I'm doing, so that you can either mimic or discount what I'm doing. Sometimes I discount it myself. Say, for example, I've got a huge decision to make, and the next week's video, next week's stream is going to be about that decision that I have to make. I've got to decide what direction I'm going to go on YouTube in order to get to where I want to go. Okay. Because what I've learned is that just being on YouTube or just DJing or just producing, you know, many of us come into those spaces just doing what we like to do organically, right? At some point in time, you've got to narrow it down, and you've got to really become very specific about who you are as a DJ, who you are as a producer, and who you are as a YouTube creator. And for me, spending the last, I would say, 3 to 4 months on YouTube, actively streaming, putting up content, I've got an idea of what I like to be as a creator. DJing, DJ wise, DJing since for over 10 years. Okay. I've got an idea, a very good idea about what kind of DJ I want to be. And producing music for over 10 years, I've got a really good idea of how I like to produce music and what my sound is. So I've got to make a final decision so that once 2026 hits, I want to be on the way of not only producing what the type of music I want to make, DJing the type of I would say events that I want to DJ, but also providing the type of content on YouTube that I want to provide. And whenever you're doing any of those things, whether it's DJing, um, production, or whether you're doing um, YouTube content, you've got to be really specific. People have got to know who you are, what you're all about, and the message that you're going to get. And so for right now, I've kind of been a little bit here, a little bit there, but I've got to start making a very firm decision so that the people who do come and enjoy these streams or who watch them after, they know what to expect, they know what they're going to get, and they're just waiting to get more of it. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and go into the topic of the day, which is I'm going to talk about my process of producing for an artist named MC Jonny T. Now, MC Jonny T and I have done a lot of production together, and MC Jonny T has a really, really great catalog. Okay. In fact, he's got a catalog not only with himself, but he also has a catalog of people that have very famous people that he has, he has music with. And I've been blessed enough to do the music for him for a lot of those famous people. And I just wanted to kind of give you guys an idea of who he's worked with. Um, he's worked with, okay, so he's worked with, it doesn't say their names. I've got to remember Snoop Dogg. Um, he's worked with Snoop Dogg. He's worked with Keith Murray. He's worked with Busta Rhymes. Hold on. I want to make sure I get his entire discography. And okay. Method Redman and Method Man. And I'm pretty sure I'm missing some other people, but JTLR, Snoop Dogg, Sean Kingston. So he has a really good discography. Okay, that's the point I'm trying to make of people that he's worked with. And so what he wanted to do now is he wants to start on a process of creating music that he would do, like a series of projects where he would be by himself. It's just going to be him. And what we decided at the beginning was that we wanted to do it what we thought was the 90s hip hop way, right? Now, mind you, we were alive during the 90s, but we weren't active during the 90s. So we're just going based upon what we think happened, not what actually happened. So exactly does that mean? Meaning that we met at the studio and I did the beats live. I cooked them up live from there, and he wrote the lyrics live, right? So I would like make the beat and be like, okay, what do you think? Like, yeah, I kind of feel like I want to talk about this. And none of the songs had any direction. None of the songs had any preconceived notions. None of the songs had any like, okay, and this is how we're going to do it from an analytics point of view, which both of us are very capable of doing. if you go to some of my videos, my previous videos on production, I actually will talk about producing videos, um, thinking about certain things like key, thinking about tempo, thinking about beat pattern, thinking about, design of the sounds, right? And that would, in today's terms, we call it analytical approach. I tell people that it's actually an old fashioned approach. The reason why we think it's different is because a lot of producers now will say, and I personally don't like when producers say it, but they'll be like, oh, I just made this beat in 5 minutes, right? I have some musician friends who don't even like when you say I made a beat. They're like, why can't you call it what it is? It's called composition. And I'm like, bro, don't be a snob, right? But thinking about tempo, thinking about key, thinking about kick patterns, and thinking about drum patterns, and thinking about sound design is not. It's actually an old fashioned musical idea, but for today's time, it's what you would call analytics. Most people have this vision in their head where they can just come up with an idea and not think about all the other parts, the arrangement, the composition. They don't think about that. They just have something that they feel and they put it down and they go with it and they try to create something out of it. And if it's good, it's good. If it's not, it's not. Now, sometimes artists in these days, sometimes artists will make 20 songs, 30 songs, and then dwindle it down to, the top 15 songs. Or they may decide to put out, like if you're Chris Brown, you make 40 songs, you just put out all 40 songs, right? Um, what we did was try and approach that I heard from Zaytoven. I looked at his interview that he did with R&B Money, and he talked about his relationship with Gucci Man, his relationship with early Future, his relationship with a lot of the early Atlanta rappers, and they kind of went with the attitude there is no such thing as a hit song or a bad song. It's a song, and then you just put it out. Whether it's good or bad, you just put it out. Don't worry about if it's a hit. Don't worry about if it's a bad song. Um, and he gave the example So Icy. He talked about how um, it wasn't everyone's favorite, but they put it out and people on the streets liked it. And so that's a very good interview. You can go to R&B Money podcast and look up the Zaytoven interview. I think it's probably one of the best interviews that I've seen for producers, primarily because he and Gucci Man had a freedom. They gave each other, they gifted each other a freedom that most artists and producers that I've encountered don't do. Typically, most artists and producers get together and they are A&Ring every aspect of the process to the point where they've taken the life and the fun out of the entire process. So what we, myself and MC Jonny T, what we wanted to do was, our rule was, let's make sure that the process is fun. We are not going to take the fun out of this process by micro analyzing every aspect. Is it the right snare? Is it the wrong snare? Ooh, do you like that sample? Should it be a sample or should it be a chop? Should it be just a loop, a chop, or a micro chop? Okay. We weren't going to go through all of that, right? Discussion and thinking about it. I was not going to be like, well, your lyrics is cool, but maybe you should say it this way, or you said that before on the other song, maybe you should try something different. We were not going to micromanage the process. We were just going to go strictly on trying to create a feel, a vibe, right? Um, and so that was really our goal going in. But back to my point about Zaytoven, go to R&B Money, look at that interview. I think if you are a producer, songwriter, that one, even if you don't do hip hop, which I don't do street music like they do, but just their approach is incredible, and I think is be very helpful for a lot of people. Another great interview is the interview with Eric Sermon and and I forgot the name of the podcast, but he's with Q, the guy from the Roots, the drummer from the Roots. I can't think of his name right now, but um, he interviewed Eric Sermon. What I got out of Eric Sermon was that Eric Sermon, I'm a huge fan of Eric Sermon, huge fan of his music, of his production, right? Especially the work that he did on his own music and the work that he did with Redman and Method Man. I love it. It's like so sonically just right to me. It felt good. And Eric Sermon just said in his interview, I did music that just sounded good to me. One of the things I thought that Eric Sermon was doing was getting a lot of jazz and soul samples and then able to chop them up and hide them. No, he literally had a keyboard. He doesn't really know how to play, and he would just put together chords and bass lines that he thought sounded good and felt good. And for someone who's a non-keyboardist or non-musician, in my opinion, he did a really, really great job of shaping. Hey, Erica, how you doing? No, you're not late, Erica. I mean, trust me, I'm the one that's always should be apologizing. Um, I'm still at the beginning of the discussion, so you didn't miss much. What I was doing was giving people some references. For those who are on the radio, you guys are probably like, who's Erica? Can I call in? Again, people who are on the radio, I'm on a YouTube channel the night before. So, well, Erica, what I was doing was giving everyone a couple of reference interviews. The one that you missed was I was talking about Zaytoven on R&B Money. I would suggest looking at that one primarily because he talked about his relationship with the artist Gucci Man, and I talked about how I liked how free they were to work with each other, and they kind of took down the boundaries that we typically put up as artist and producer, right? And then the next interview that I wanted, let me get the name of the drummer from the Roots. Drummer from the Roots. Questlove, right. And then let me get his podcast. Questlove podcast. Questlove Supreme, and Questlove did an interview with Eric Sermon. And what I was saying is that Eric Sermon is one of my favorite hip hop producers. And I thought that Eric Sermon was a musician, or he was able to find jazz and soul samples that sounded so sonically amazing to me, along with the bass line, and it created a sound. And so he was one of my first favorite hip hop producers. And so when I looked at his interview on Questlove's podcast, Questlove Supreme, he talked about how he just made music that just sounded good to him. He's not a Eric Sermon is not a musician at all. He works on a keyboard, right? I forgot the name of the keyboard that he works on, but he works on a keyboard and he just finds a vibe that he likes, and that just sounds good. So overall, what I'm finding out and what I wanted to the goal that I wanted to achieve working with MC Jonny T is, number one, I didn't want to have any of these rules, these analytical rules that we typically put up. Those rules were out. Secondly, I didn't want to judge. Yeah, I didn't want to micro judge song by song, beat by beat, sample by sample. I didn't want to do that. Um, and then I want to do as much as I can to create a vibe that I hear naturally. So if it sounds good to me, I want to test my ear. And the reason why that's important, because a lot of producers, especially the ones before we get famous, what we do is we try to sound a little bit like everyone else so we can get acceptance. And so what ends up happening is you don't really develop a sound. You're just sounding like a bad knockoff of someone else. And I didn't want to sound like a bad knockoff of Dre. I always rejected that. I didn't want to sound like a bad knockoff of the Neptunes because they have such a it's like it's obvious. Neptunes has such a unique sound that if you try to sound like the Neptunes, it's obvious you're trying to sound like the Neptunes. And I didn't want to keep trying to chase down like what's hot and what's not. I wanted to just put out to the world what I think sounds good. And I want to test my ear. Is my ear good? Now I feel a little confident because I'm a DJ. And so every week, like tonight, I will be at the club and I'm going to be curating an hour or 4 hours. Tonight will be 1 hour, but typically when I DJ, I curate between 1 and 4 hours. And I say to the world, this is what I think is hot. And the world says, okay, and they react. So I see it in real time from a DJ point of view. I wanted to do the same thing for production. Hey, world, this is what I think is hot. So I was not going to sit there and say, well, let me do a song like this producer or that producer. And so just to kind of wrap this first segment up so we can go ahead and get into the actual my actual process. um, Go watch those two videos that I referenced. R&B Money podcast with Zaytoven, right? Go watch that one. And then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to go watch the Eric Sermon interview on Questlove Supreme podcast. Okay, Eric Sermon. Even if you're not into hip hop, the point is that you want to hear that people are just doing what they think sounds good. Okay, and how they achieve that. All right, so you know what I got to do. I got to do it. Um, I do have a sponsor, and the sponsor is guess who? Me. That's right, me. Just want to let you guys know I have a line of merchandise that people like, and I'm surprised and shocked that they are. In the future, I'm going to really talk about developing offline income or revenue sources. I'm going to talk about it in depth. I'm not going to go into it today, but I am going to write it into my ideas for um, this show, primarily because somebody said something a couple of weeks ago that was like really intuitive, and he said we assume that YouTube is going to be here, like it's a utility, and really it's just an app, and just like TikTok and any other app, Instagram, Facebook, they're all apps. Okay. And so we kind of feel like YouTube is like TV and it's going to be here. And it's like, it's not. So you got to have to like start taking people offline. Anyway, that being said, I do have merch. I have logo merch. Right now, my logo is very popular. People like it. I'm shocked and surprised. But they do like it. So I have my logo on t-shirts. I have my logo on hoodies. Wintertime is here. Okay, it's going to be colder in other places than really it is here in LA, but it's starting to get a little chilly out here in LA. I have beanies, and I finally put together my dad hats. Now, keep in mind, you do have if you go to my website, Mad Scientist madscientistmusic.com. That's madscientistmusic.com. You do have options, okay? You have different color options. So here you have red, you have pink, okay? You have black and you have blue. Um, for the hoodies, you have options, right? I have a black one, blue one, red one, and a light one. Now, this particular hoodie is the white logo, but you may say, I don't like the white logo, Mad Scientist. Let me see the black logo. Okay. So we have different colors in the black logo. And you'll see right here, see the logo is black. Okay. So that's the difference. And then you have t-shirts. The only thing that only has one color is the backpack. The backpack only has one color, but everything else has different colors, different sizes. And so, yeah, go try out my merch. Um, I really appreciate those who do. You know, sometimes out here locally, when I'm walking around and I see people have bought my merch, um, I wish they would let me take pictures so I could like kind of show you, but it's always an adventure. When people are like, yo, I'll be in the store and they'll be like, yo, mad scientist. And I'm like, huh? And I remember the first time I heard that, I forgot that they were talking about me. But now it's a little, because I'm used to people calling me by my government name. And but when somebody calls me mad scientist, it's always kind of cool. And if they have my merch on, the only thing I gotta get convince people is let me take a picture, but they're always like, nah, because I don't want to be, because I feel like you'll put it out there to everybody, and I don't want that. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. So, all right, so let's get into the review of my own music, right? Okay, so like I said, MC Jonny T and I produced an album. It's called The Coal. It's COAL. Okay, and I think it's the coolest of all time. I can't remember. It's an acronym, right? But it's called the Cole, and it's going to be a series of 3 projects. So I think he's called Cole, and then the next one's going to be called Pressure, and then the last one's going to be called Diamond. So it's going from Cole to Diamond, right? Which is really appropriate because that is essentially what we're doing. All right. So as usual, I'm going to put myself to the same criteria that I put everybody. I'm just going to give you my perspective because a lot of times, like we talked about on this channel, um, Doja Cats, right? That was the last album that I reviewed. We talked about that. Unfortunately, we don't have her with us to like kind of give react to it in live, but now you have me as a producer to react to the process. And then once this album is released, which I think is going to be released in November, I will let everyone know, and we might do a reaction party. How would that sound? You guys like that? Let me know, Erica. Okay, songwriting. So as we know, songwriting is when you write the lyrics. And as I said, we came to the studio and we just wrote, and MC Jonny T just wrote the lyrics. Okay. He just wrote the lyrics. He didn't come in with lyrics already written. He wrote as he heard. And he wasn't thinking like, and we did not specifically say, hey, let's start the song and talk about this. In fact, one of his favorite rappers is Guru from Gangstar, and he talked about how they used to have subjects. They would have a subject list, a list of subject that they would talk about, and and Guru would just rap on each subject, right? So Jonny T said, "I'm not doing that. I'm actually going against that. And I'm just going to listen to the beat and just write lyrics." Okay. So songwriting rise, lyric rise. Okay, I gave him a 7. Now he's probably going to be like, "What?" I'll tell you why I gave him a 7. The reason why I gave him a 7 is because what we found, what he found, and this is directly something that he said himself. What he found was when he did it that way, when he tried to perform it, it wasn't as solid and fluid. Okay. There were a couple of songs that there was a week that I went to go see my my aunt, right? I went to go visit my aunt for the weekend and I wasn't in the studio. And that week he practiced the songs that he was going to go, perform for the next week when I came back. He said the songs that we did on that day, he felt better performing them. He felt like he had a better understanding of how he wanted to deliver the lyrics, the flow. He felt way more confident. So what he said was, when we start doing the next album, Pressure, we're still going to do the whole process of writing, but the performance is not going to be on the same day. Okay. So the writing will happen on the same day, but the performance will come back next week. Okay, we're gonna perform these songs. Okay. So to give himself time to get used to the flow. So I would say, when you're producing artists, a lot of artists like to feel like they freestyle. Oh, let me just get high, get drunk, come up with some lyrics, and then just say it, right? And because we have this in hip hop, we have this fantasy in our head that Jay-Z, that's what he did. Biggie, that's what he did. Tupac, that's what he did. They came up with, and I told him, I said, I was listening to some old Jay-Z, and a lot of times Jay-Z would be off beat. Okay. As he got older, he was less on beat. And my thinking is, and here's what I told him: when I DJ as a DJ, I have mastered a 2-hour party set. A 2-hour, I call it the birthday mix. I have mastered it from the beginning, the first song to the last song. Okay. First song starts with say ah. The last song is, it used to right now, the last song is Nokia, Drake. Okay. It used to be Not Like Us, but now it's Nokia, Drake. Okay. You said that's why you work with personas, Erica. We're gonna have a discussion, Erica, one day about the AI. I think we're gonna do that. Okay, I'm gonna put that on my list of things to do. We're gonna talk about AI personas. Okay, and I'm gonna let you. We'll debate it, but it's not gonna be a you're wrong. It's gonna be a more of let's both debate it old school style, where it's like, this is what I think and this is what you think. And I would like to hear. I'm not against it, as you know that we talked about Timberland's Tata, but we're going to talk about that. I would really like to have that conversation with you as someone who's actively doing it now, because look, if you get it down to a science, I think the one R&B persona that's singing R&B right now, she just got a $3 million record deal. So I could be like coming at you saying, hey, listen, can I do a beat for you? So very soon. All right. So back to the real humans. Um, when it comes down to songwriting, number one, he felt like the delivery wasn't as strong as it should have been, primarily because, yeah, he wrote it real time, but he didn't have time to practice it. Okay. And when I listened to old Jay-Z, when I listened to old Tupac rapped the same way all the time. He rapped the same way for every song. If you listen to old Tupac, he's just rapping the same way. So he's not really changing his flow a lot. Okay. We like his flow, but it's the same flow, different words. Jay-Z would be off beat a lot at the beginning. I think probably later on into the 2000s, they probably corrected his offbeatness, but he has a tendency to be offbeat. And I think with Biggie, Biggie was just super incredibly special. And I don't know, I can't explain Biggie. I can't explain Biggie because he did, but Biggie did write in advance. He didn't freestyle. So maybe that was him. Okay, let's assume that he practiced. Biggie practiced. He wrote he practiced. Okay. So of the three top ones, and then Nas, a lot of times Nas with freestyle, Nas did right, but a lot of times probably Nas didn't practice. And you could tell when Nas was off a lot. Okay. But we were just like, his lyrics is just so fly. The production was so fly, we can kind of look past it, but he was offbeat a lot. Okay. So what we decided on the songwriting, another thing with the songwriting, what we found is that he wasn't able to, when you're just writing and then just performing, he wasn't able to like I had to introduce him to the concept that he would sometimes sing when he raps. He was melodic. If you asked him, he would say, "I'm not melodic." And I'm like, "Bro, you are melodic. Listen to how you're saying it." He was just thinking, "I'm being expressive." And I had to explain to him, even when we're talking, right? And we're just trying to be expressive, there's a kind of a melody. It's just natural to how we talk as humans. And so if you could map that out a little bit, which goes against the whole analytics thing. But what I said to him is, and getting back to my 2 hour mix, my 2 hour party mix, within my 2 hour party mix, I know I've mastered it so much. I've done it so many times that I could take parts of the party mix and implement it in different places, locations, call it up anytime. You know, I might be doing a Spanish set, but then I need to insert some of the party mix. So I know, okay, I can, Little John is goes across all genres. So Little John is English and Spanish sets. So I can just take the Little John set segment of my party mix, take that out, put that into the Spanish party mix, or I can do an English party mix. Pitbull is another one that's, and now Bad Bunny is another one that's crosses all genres, English and Spanish. So I can include, you know, I can have an all like maybe hip hop set or an all R&B set, and include my Pitbull, include my Bad Bunny portion of my party mix. So what does that mean for lyricists? You start to learn what people like when you rap or when you sing. Okay. You start to learn, and you know this when they repeat it. When I listen to his raps or his songs, there's certain parts of the songs that come into my head immediately because I like when he says it and how he says it. I told him you need to start cataloging so that you could give people what they already like about you. So that's my evaluation of the songwriting. I gave him a 7 just to be kind of fair with it. Okay. Now we go into composition, which is the beat making. I gave myself a 7. Okay. Partly because I wanted to be fair to him. You know, I want to give myself an 8. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you. Originally, I gave myself an 8, but I downgraded myself to a 7. Let's see, you can pinpoint the styles and structures due to your musical education background and easy for others. They should take your advice with welcome on. Yes, I agree. Um, I was reading what Erica had put. She says, you can pinpoint the styles and structures due to my musical education background, not easy for others. And that's why I do this, is to try to break it down for others so that, yeah, I think that everybody should have musical education, but until you get to that point, to try to break it down, make it easy, they should take, okay. So essentially what she's saying is that, you know, with my musical background, yes, I do have musical background, musical education. And what I'm saying is, you know, it is natural for us to be able to talk, and for me as a beat maker to have a taste. Okay. I have a taste in music that I like, just naturally, me, that is unique to me. Okay. And the reason why I gave myself a 7 is because I want to go deeper into that. I still found myself still saying, "Ooh, I think I kind of want to do a beat like DJ Premier." I ain't gonna lie. I have one that I thought I micro chopped it. I found a sample, I micro chopped the sample, and I called it a DJ Premier type beat. So I'm still now the beat is good. It sounds good. It's like one of the best songs on the album. But I'm still kind of going into that. Well, let me do what DJ Premier does. Let me do what Jay Dilla does. I want to get away from that and totally create a process where it's just based upon my ears, on my taste, what I want to do. So that's why I went on and gave myself a 7. Okay. I did a great job of mimicking the people that influenced me, but I have to be more me now. Production, I gave it an 8 simply because I'm a really, really good producer. I ain't gonna even hold you. I ain't gonna even East Coast hold you. I'm a really good producer. I do know what I'm doing and I'm educated. And so I gave myself an 8. Why not a 10? Because there's still certain things about production that I don't feel confident in. Like I just found out, I just realized that I overcompressed the vocals. Okay, which affected my EQing of the vocals. And I just discovered it. And I discovered it because one of the things I hated doing, and a lot of engineers, mix engineers, they have an assistant and they'll have their assistant automate the vocals. Okay. I hate doing it because it's so time consuming. Like for one song, it could take 2 hours, depending on how many vocals are in there. It could take 2 hours just to automate one song. It takes a long time. And I don't have an assistant. And for me, I'm so busy that I don't have time to just automate my vocals. But that's a cheat code right there. When you're okay, you got to make sure your vocals, in order to get loud music, you got to make sure your vocals stay within, have a dynamic range of 2 dB. Okay, I'm not going to go deep into the woods, but you want to have 2 dB of dynamic range from your vocals. That means the top, let's say the top is at 0, just for the sake of numbers, right? Let's say the top is at 0, the bottom needs to be -2. Okay, not -3, not -4. But when a rapper raps or a singer sings, it's typically between 0 and 6. So that's a dynamic range of 6 dB. If you want your raps to be loud, it needs to be 2, no more than 3. Okay. And in order to achieve that, you've got to use compression. You've got, steps, a series of compressor. It can't happen on one compressor. I use 3 compressors, okay, in order to achieve it. So you're chopping it down little by little, right? But a large part of it is what the pros do. They'll have an assistant, and the assistant will automate the volume of the vocal. So if it's too loud, bring the vocal down. If it's too low, bring it up, and they will automate it and get it down to that dynamic range of about 2 dB. Okay. And then when you bring in the compressors are just safety because nothing in audio is exact, right? So you put on the first compressor, it gets all the peaks, bring the peak down. You put on your second compressor, usually an LA2A, and um, it's going to like really, really pinpoint because of its smooth characteristics. Also, an LA2A compressor is a tube compressor. So that tube is adding more saturation to the vocal, which means that it's making the vocal bigger, right? And then the third compressor I use on my group, which is an MV2, a Waves MV2. And well, before I get into that, I do a vocal rider. And then after the vocal rider, I do the MV2 compressor. So I'm getting my vocals within a 2 dB dynamic range. Okay. And that takes a long time. And the dude is taking us to school. Yeah, I give you the real stuff because this is what I do for real, for real. I just don't like to do how-to videos, okay? Because I'm like literally like after I do this, it'll be 7 o'clock California time. I got to go take a shower and get ready to go to the club tonight. So, all right. So yeah, I've got to do 3 levels of compression, and I was trying to cheat the process of not doing the automation because it just takes so long. And and what was happening was I was over compressing the vocals, and I would always hear a lisp, like a lisp, right? That is a clear sign that you're over compressing your vocals. If you hear lisp, you're like, where's that lisp coming from? And then you try to EQ it out. You try to EQ it out, and I'm trying to use all kind of EQ on my ears, and then put another resonance suppressor, 2 levels of resonance suppressor. And it got to the point where I was like, this is ridiculous. I've got way too many plugins trying to, because I just don't want to do the automation. And that's why I was 2 weeks late, because I had to go back and just do the automation. Can't be lazy. Once I did the automation, then it took the lisp out, and because I wasn't over compressing, and I was able to compress everything just 2 dB. The first compressor, 1176, 2 dB, all right, between 1 and 2, very lightly, right? 4-to-1 ratio. The LA2A, it doesn't have a ratio or anything, but just 2 dB, and then the MV2, 2 dB. So that's a total of 6 dB of compression, right? And you're not gonna really hear that, okay? So that's why I gave myself an 8 on production, because of that, and also because Erica, you'll be good to know, I use AI mastering. Yes, I use AI mastering. So I'm not against AI at all. I use AI mastering. And so I'm not going to give myself a 10 on production, because I know that I use AI mastering. I have the isotope. Um, I have the isotope ozone 11, and I'd let it do what it do. I tweak a couple things to my ear, but basically I let it do what it do. I put it on the hip hop setting, boom. So I gave myself an 8. Cultural relevance, I gave this project a 7, primarily because I felt like we're still like, and I would tell him this, I feel like him and I are still in that vein of we're trying to be, we're wannabes. We're not, this is who we are yet. And hopefully by the time we get to the 3rd installment of this process, you're asking me if the mastering work? Yes. The isotope, I did a whole video on that. It works. You just have to know what to tweak. Like, you got to know how to set up your dither. You got to know that, and you have to have an ear, because sometimes those automated mixers tend to be bright. And me, I know hip hop. Hip hop is not bright. Okay, so I take the brightness out, and then also they make the loudness based upon old school rules. So it will say hip hop song, the loudness should be -9 LUFS. Right now, if you're doing hip hop, you should be at -8.5 LUFS, 8.5 LUFS, -8 LUFS. You should not be at -9 LUFS, okay, at all. So you're gonna have to know how to get yourself up to 8.5 LUFS, and adjust the brightness or the bassiness according to your genre. So, but anyway, going back to the cultural relevance, I still feel like me and the artist MC Jonny T, we're basing what we like on this fantasy world that we have about hip hop. How do we feel about hip hop and what it should sound like? It's based on fantasy and a little bit of my musical knowledge, right? I still put that in there, but it's not based on feel. Like, we just lost D'Angelo. D'Angelo wrote music. Yes, he was influenced by people, obviously Prince. He also mentioned Jay Dilla, a lot of hip hop artists, but he just wanted to make feel good music. There's a song out right now, Touch on Me by October London. And in that, he says it's not even a song, it's just a vibe, right? And that song has gone viral. He has a whole challenge. You can look it up on YouTube. It's called Touch on Me. It's just a vibe. It's just a feel good. And so I feel like, me and MC Jonny T, we did not achieve that yet. We have not got to the point where we just got a vibe, and we just doing what feels good. We're still caught up into the matrix of this is what hip hop should sound like. Okay. Overall, I gave us an 8. Okay. Because I'm the one giving myself a rating. I'm gonna give myself an 8. Somebody, and I'll once the song is released, once the music is released, I'll have me along with the artist MC Jonny T will come on here and we'll discuss. We'll have a reaction together as a community, and you guys can overall tell us. We are not going to lie to each other in this community. We are scholars. Okay. If you look at my let me show you. And I'm not trying to sell you guys. I just want to show you in case you've missed it. Okay. If you look at my gear, I don't know if you can see that. It says DJ, music producer, hip hop scholar. So our community, we're scholars. So we're not gonna sit here and lie to each other. I mean, we can lie to other people, but it's bad when we lie to ourselves. So I will have it on there, and you guys can give us your ratings. Erica, I'll let you kind of lead the discussion, and you can talk about songwriting, composition, production, cultural relevance, and overall, and we can discuss it. You guys can give me your opinion. I gave it an 8 because that's how I feel. But I did make the music. I was there, and I am excited. I listen. It's one of my favorite projects to listen to that I've done with him. Um, is I would say if there was anything that I would want us to do differently on the next project is have him practice his lyrics, and then number two, I'm going to try as hard as I can not to say, okay, on this song, I'm going to use micro chops, right? On this song, I'm going to use chops. On this song, I'm going to loop, which are 3 different sampling techniques, okay? I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to, and I don't know how you just create a vibe with not factoring in anything else. I don't know how you do that. That's what I have to learn though. I'm going to try as hard as I can just to create a vibe, which has nothing to do with outside influences, but more of me. How do I feel? How do I hear music? How do I feel music? How do I um how do I curate music? Okay. And however that is, which I've never done before, I want to try to accomplish that goal. And so that's, my review of my own music. I really thank you, Erica, especially you. You're here all the time. But everybody that comes through, I really thank you for coming through. My channel is growing. I remember I would talk to a lot of zero people, and now the numbers are still growing and growing over time. I have pretty much Erica here every time, so I'm always like, okay, I got to get here because I know Erica's going to be there, and it's like I feel obligated, and it's always fun because we get that back and forth. If you are new and you're in the background just listening, please like and subscribe. I gotta say all that stuff. But more importantly, go to my merch store, madscientistmusic.com. Just check it out. I will tell you this: if you do decide to buy any of the merch, and I'm bad at it, I just ordered some more stuff. If you notice, my manager told me you're like the worst seller of merchandise because you wear everyone else. But I'm a hip hop head. I said, look, I'm a hip hop head. Like, who doesn't wear this logo when you're talking about hip hop? Like, you wear that logo every time, right? But I digress. If you do buy it, if it's fitted, the hoodies are fitted, okay, and they don't shrink, they don't get big. I've washed my hoodie numerous times, they don't shrink, but at the same time, I've worn it a lot and it doesn't stretch and it's kind of fitted. So if you like a little baggy, then just get it a little baggier, right? Don't get it the exact size that you like. If you wear medium, get large if you want it baggy. Okay. I think that's pretty much it. Thank you, everybody who came through. Thank you, Erica. I appreciate you. I'll be back next Wednesday where I'll be talking about hot takes. And That's it. You guys have a great weekend. Be safe out there. And do yourself a favor. Take care of yourself mentally. Take care of your mental illness. Stay off social media. I know you're on social media now watching me, but stay off social media. Take care of yourself mentally, and just stay free. And that's it. All right, y'all. Peace.